Hey guys, today I want to bring you a pretty special video. I was able to sit down and talk with EA Sports NHL gameplay developer Ben Ross in regards to some specific attributes in NHL 20. We're talking about HUT, but this can also pertain to Versus as well. There is a lot of gameplay changes fundamentally, rebounds, things like that, L2 being nerfed. So I want to get what he thought in regards to how certain attributes work in NHL 20 and how they should impact your lineup in a little bit more in depth that a lot of people are confused about or don't even really know about, myself included. So I asked him 5 specific questions. We're going to get into that right now, and I'm very curious to see what you guys think and how it's going to impact your team build in NHL 20. So let's hop into it. So the first thing I do want to mention with these questions and whatnot, I want to make it very clear that not everything is black and white. There is a lot more detail that goes into the game that a lot of people don't realize. And talking to someone like Ben who knows the ins and outs and how the game is actually developed, you're going to be kind of surprised at some of the answers here when it comes to attributes and whatnot. I also want to make this clear. None of these are the end-all be-all. I'm just trying to give you some advice and shed some light on attributes and things that might help you break a tie or make things clear when building a team, because the most important time for these things and looking at what attributes actually matter is early on at launch. If you're looking to get off on the right foot for NHL 20, then you definitely want to pay attention to the in-depth stuff like this, because come March, when almost all the cards have very, very high ratings, attributes and things like that don't really matter nearly as much as they do early on. So that's my goal with this video, is to try and shed some light and have Ben explain in much more detail than anyone that I know can. So let's jump right into the first question in regards to goaltenders. Question 1. Can you give an example of how goalies react with high aggressiveness compared to low, and will it drastically change if they have, let's say, 70 aggression compared to 99 in NHL 20? I personally noticed that as the game went on, goaltenders changed quite a bit in how they played, and I kind of wanted to know the ins and outs and if it really did change things quite a bit in NHL 20. So here's what Ben had to say. Aggressiveness came up a lot in HUT this year because as the player ratings got increased, all the stats started to move towards 99. This doesn't make sense with aggression the same way it does with something like rebound control. Aggression is a tendency rather than a skill, so we've talked to the HUT team about keeping that attribute common for the goalie based on their personality / playstyle, as opposed to thinking that the higher is better. A goalie with higher aggression is more likely to challenge out further and will impact their aggression to play a puck or pass a puck out with less time to react relative to opponents closing in. So it depends on how you play. If your goalie gets sniped a lot, you may like it, but you would need to defend the pass and rebounds a lot more. So I mentioned him back, so higher aggression would help with short side wristers more than the lower aggression goaltenders. Ben replied with, they would cut off the angles more by challenging further, but they may also get out of position more. Depends on the scenario and how they track the puck. Attributes matter when it comes to the limb-based reaction saves for sure, but by challenging more, they need to reach less, so could make blocking saves more as well, potentially. So this is basically saying, in a nutshell, if you were noticing that early on in the game when overall ratings are a little bit lower overall, and you notice that you're getting burned by the short side wrister a lot, maybe you don't defend it well, maybe you're just, you're not able to cover that as well as other things like collapsing to the front of net and covering the backdoor pass. You might want to look for a goalie with a higher aggression rating, because that's going to allow him to come out of the net, kind of forget about the backdoor pass a little bit more, not completely abandon it, but challenge him more, come out to the top of the crease a little bit, and that will cut down on the short side wrister goals. Now, if you cover the short side and the slot very well, but you can't cover the D to D one-timer or the slot one-timer very well, the backdoor plays, you might want to look for someone that has a little bit lower or aggression. Obviously, height and the rest of his attributes matter, but when it comes to aggression, it's more of a trait than an actual stat. So in 20, it might change, but at launch, if we're keeping things the same, you might want to pay attention to how aggression is on the goaltenders you're using, because it will tailor to how you play more so than the other stats. Ben went on to say that I think it would depend how much you trust your team to cover the weak side and passes, and if you feel your goalie is too deep too often and should challenge the shooter more, you may benefit from a more aggressive goalie. Also keep in mind there is a bunch of logic that goes into when goalies challenge, so although one would challenge more than another, the scenario dictates the sub-levels of that. So on a 2-on-1, they play different than a 2-on-0, and if they are thinking shoot, pass, or deke based on how the puck carrier is approaching, forehand, backhand, chance to be a threat to shoot from a good position, etc. So yeah, this is just hammering home the point that aggression is more of a trait than it is a stat. So it's something I didn't know. I kind of just, it's something that it looks like they're looking into, and if they do make the adjustment for it in 20, obviously they'll let us know more than likely, but if everything stays the same, just be aware of that. If you are getting, beat by the same kind of goals, you might want to look at the aggression rating for your goaltender. Question 2. With rebound control from goaltenders getting reworked, is there a rating at which you'll see a noticeable difference in rebounds, such as it getting kicked out into the slot or it reacting like how it is in NHL 19? Will a goalie with 90 plus never have these kinds of rebounds, whereas someone with 70 experience these from time to time? Ben replied with, for controlled saves, it takes the glove and blocker ratings into effect on top of the rebound control rating. There will be certain points where a goalie still doesn't have time to react. However, a 90 rated goalie will be better than 70 as it is, like shot accuracy for example. The higher rated goalie will need a less ideal scenario to control the rebound. So with the new rebound control for NHL 20, it'll be interesting. In the beta, we didn't really see how it's going to work at launch because of the mass amount of changes that's happening to Versus and Hut from the time of beta to launch. So if it is early on and you're noticing, you're using a very low-rated goaltender with low rebound control and you're not seeing the new rebounds quite as often as you would think, then it might be your rebound control as well as how you play, obviously, but it is something to pay attention to. Another stat that you do want to take quite a bit of look at, because obviously with the new rebound control animations for goaltenders, it can really help with that new threat analysis for kicking it out into the corner or even out of play to stop those easy tap-in cheese off the pad goals. Question 3. For players that love to use the L2 in the offensive zone to create space, what stats or stat would you prioritize when trying to find players that would excel at it? Ben answered with, for keeping control of the puck, there are a few things. For pivoting, dangling around, you obviously want better skating stats. High agility and acceleration helps. But you also want balance and or size. It helps with resisting low relative speed hits/shoves, and then having higher puck control and offensive awareness will help you pick the puck back up again quickly if you do lose it. I answered with, would you mean that bigger guys might have an easier time with this? Ben answered with, not necessarily. The big guys won't get bumped off the puck as much, but they may be slower once they get around, so they don't lose the puck but also don't get anywhere. Best would be a combination of both. Avoid the hit and get your next step quickly to get out of there. I asked, what would you consider to be a big player, over 6 foot? Ben said, it's all relative to who is hitting you. If the player hitting you is bigger and or has higher hitting ratings than your balance, so you just need to be bigger than their defense. So if Hut teams are playing small for speed, you don't need huge players, just bigger than theirs. But the bigger you are, the more they need higher relative speed, or their angles they are hitting from matter more. And yeah, balance is huge. We make attributes matter a lot, so that a smaller player that is known to have high hitting skill isn't limited by their weight. So it's a combination of both. But you can also have a big player that still has low balance and a small player that has high balance. Interesting. So if you were to pick 3 stats to focus on, agility, excel, and balance, and then height and weight, he said if you use it in the offensive zone to keep the puck and look for a pass, then balance is big. If you want to be elusive and score yourself, you want agility and acceleration, and then the best players obviously have it all. So A lot of that might be common sense. Obviously, if you're using L2 a lot, you want agility and acceleration. But the thing I wanted to point out here is that balance is extremely important. It can mitigate the guys that are a little bit smaller. As long as they have high balance, it can help you keep the puck a lot more. Same with bigger players. If they have big balance, then you might not be able to hold it for a long time, but you can hold the L2 or, use it quite effectively and not lose the puck at all. So you might want to make sure that your balance rating is, quite high or higher with the players that you choose to use the L2 with. Question 4. Deking felt much better in the beta compared to 19 in terms of success rate. Is there a rating in which you will see, let's say, a 90% chance of success if pulled off at the perfect speed, and using a player with 75 or lower turn that chance of success into a dice roll? Let's say trying to pull off the pull through between the legs deke. Ben responded with, for this one, the higher the deke rating, the better the chance. To make sure every point matters, there is no perfect rating. So there isn't a point where you won't lose the puck necessarily, because there is a ceiling and you wouldn't benefit or need a higher rating than that. It scales right up to 99. But we also have tiers of dekes. Your base side-to-side speed when using the right stick scales the speed based on your deke rating. And then the tap dekes are a lower tier, as are toe drags. Then you have small windmills, big windmills that are harder to pull off, and then above those you have the pull through the legs deke and more elaborate double tap, etc. So you always want a higher deke rating. It will control the speed you can do the dekes as well as the overall success rate. So pretty blanket here. It does matter the speed at which you're coming in and the angle that you're taking, but obviously the higher the rating, nothing crazy here. I just wanted to know, I didn't know that it did include the speed at which you do the deke is higher, so that is good to know, as well as the back and forth forehand backhand does increase the speed the higher the deke rating. Okay, and the last question. You're looking for a defender for your team. From a developer standpoint, what would you consider to be the 3 most important attributes, including height and weight? Ben answered with, looking for a best defender is a tough one as it is personal. If you don't hit or use stick checking a lot, you want a different player than if you go for the open ice hits often. You can't go wrong with strong skating skills, as it depends on what your opponents are like. If you use a smaller D-man, would you say that he would need to have a higher stick checking to play effective? Ben answered with, do they set up in the zone or have high-flying rushes? Yeah, if you are smaller, you need good positioning, so a good active stick to force the play where you want, angling players, and getting accurate pokes is helpful. But a small player will still bump any player off the puck if they hit them away from the puck at the correct speed, obviously. But you will be in tough if you get to the backside of a player and need to shove them towards the puck. Obviously, with a small player, that'll be much more difficult. But again, that's where you use the defensive skill stick to take away a side/angle and have your body to the other, so that they need to turn, they need to come through you to the net. Having higher hitting rating than their balance is better as well. But relative speed, angles, how direct the hit is all matter, and then the weight of the player as well. Plus, stick on stick or stick on body will disrupt the puck as well. So there is a lot of things that come into play here. But obviously, if you have a defender that is big with high skating, as well as a good stick check, that would probably be your best bet. So guys, that was what I had to ask him so far for NHL 20. Again, I just wanted to take a quick minute of his time, see if I could get some attribute things and kind of get some more in-depth knowledge and see if anything's different going into NHL 20, or maybe not different, but things that a lot of people didn't know in regards to how their players play. I'll be honest, a lot of the time, I just look at whoever's fastest, until this year when I had to start paying attention to how my team was lining up. But I did realize that early on in the year, these things matter more because there are going to be a lot of players that you're going to get around the same overall rating, and these kind of things will help break the tie in who to keep, and it all depends on how you play. It's all about adjustments, things like that. And I want to thank Ben for taking the time to answer these questions. If you guys have any specifically that you want to know in regards to specific attribute questions, I can see if I can ask them and maybe put out a future video. I do like getting you guys this kind of content because, again, it's an in-depth look at the game, and it's not something that is widely available. So if you did like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.